Hi, you've reached the Midland Beer Store on Highway 93. Our store hours are as follows. Monday through Thursday, 10 till 8. Friday, 10 till 9. Saturday, 9:30 to 9. Sunday, 12 to 5. We can't come to the phone right now, so please leave a message after the tone. Thank you.
Hi, and welcome to The Curling Show, the podcast that brings you interviews with the sport's top athletes and the people who shape the game, supported by listeners who have made donations at thecurlingshow.com. I'm Dean Gemmel, and if you know your curling or your Ontario beer store managers, you already know who we talk to in this edition. Depending upon the week, the skip of the team that is either number 1 or number 2 in the CTRS points race and on the Asham World Curling Tour Order of Merit. Glenn Howard, welcome to the Curling Show.
Oh, thanks very much, Dean. My pleasure.
Well, 4 spiels, 4 wins, no money left on the table, and you've done it different ways, A-side, C-side, and even with you on the shelf following an operation to repair a hernia.
Unbelievable, Dean. I obviously it's a little bit surreal. Can't quite believe we had this start to the season, and I think the impressive thing right off the bat was you're right. I had a little hernia operation and was out of commission for the first spiel, and my boys came up to the plate, all moved up a notch. Richie skipped, and Brent third. Craig played second, and those boys went out and won the first spiel of the year at the in Brockville, and that just to me just set the tone. The guys obviously were playing great. It just goes to show you how great a team I have. And I just had to get healthy and get back, and lo and behold, my recovery was really quick with the hernia. And gosh, we've just gone out and we've played very well. Had a few smoke and mirror games, a few breaks along the way, which a couple of uncharacteristic misses out of some of the best skips. But it happens, as you know, and you take those when you can get them. And like you said, we've left nothing on the table, and might as well keep riding the wave.
There you go. Did you feel any extra pressure when you came back after they won the shorty without you?
I honestly didn't, but I kind of joked about it afterward. I said, "Oh, thank God I played pretty good here and we won, or I lost my job," you know. So, no, I honestly don't. The guys, they weren't necessarily in their comfort zone playing the positions they did. But God, like I said, they're such great players that it doesn't matter what position they play, and they're going to play well. And no, obviously, and they didn't. They sure as heck didn't put any pressure on me at all. But no, I was really pumped. I honest to God, I was so happy to get back. Playing, and I wanted to play without pain and this sort of thing, and I didn't have any, and I was so pleased. To me, it was a huge advantage going into a spiel, knowing my guys had just won a spiel, and I figured, obviously they played very well, so now I figure it's actually less pressure. I'm going in with guys who are playing really well, and it took a little bit off me, so I really enjoyed it, and lo and behold, they played great for me, and we won the first one.
Yeah, I don't think demotion was really ever an issue for you. I don't think Glenn Howard demotion was going to happen.
That's another thing I laughed about, too, because Rich, about 2 days before Oakville, Rich called me up. He says, everybody I'm talking to is, there's no way you're going to be able to play. Like, there's no way you're going to... I said, Rich, I think I'm good. I said, I threw rocks today, and it was like 2 days before the spiel. Really? And I go, yeah, I threw rocks. It feels good. I said, the worst case scenario is that if I can't throw real hard, maybe I'll play lead. I'll call the game, play lead, and you guys, obviously you guys don't need me. And he kind of chuckled. He says, okay, we don't need a spare. I go, no, we don't need a spare. I'll play no matter what, depending on how it feels. And threw rocks the next day, felt good, and then we ended up playing 9 games, and it didn't bother me at all. Not at one iota, and, obviously the rest is history. We went out and played well, and were able to win.
Hey, let's talk about your current rivalry here with Team Kevin Martin. With last year's Players' Championship win and this year's win in the final at the Cactus Pheasant Classic, you've actually won 2 in a row against them. But at the same time, the two teams seem so even, I don't even think anyone could establish a betting line on a game. While this rivalry is at a national instead of a provincial level, in certain ways, and I know the game is different than it was back then, but does it feel a little bit like when you played with your brother Russ and you battled Ed Wernick every year?
Very, very similar, Dean. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And it was always, when we battled Eddie back in the day, it was a pick'em. You just didn't know, and it didn't matter if one team was hot and one wasn't. It still was a pick'em because the rivalry and the abilities on both those teams was so solid that you just, when you played each other, you got up for it. And the same sort of thing's happening with Kevin. And obviously, they're an absolutely unbelievable curling team, and we have some epic battles always. And obviously there was a big one for us winning the Players' Championship last year because that secured the spot, our Olympic trial spot, so that was massive. And then this last one was kind of a funny game. We the first 2 or 3 ends, Kevin was, they were sort of all overs. They had a couple of opportunities from big ends. We made some nice some good shots to get out of it, and then he ended up getting 2 threes on us, which didn't bode well, and it looked like it was going to be his game, and he missed a very makeable double that, to me, for Kevin Martin, he makes in his sleep, and on the very last shot, and lo and behold, he missed it, and we stole it. So it was very fortunate on our part to even win the game. But again, it always usually comes down to last shot. We have epic battles, and they're a lot of fun because there's 4 or 8 really good curlers out there making a lot of shots.
I think the question for some people is, and when we compare your rivalry, the rivalry you had with Eddie when you were playing with Russ, is where's Bob Ingram on the national level? I mean, and to be more fair, maybe in this current era, where does one of those teams in the top 8 that isn't Martin or Howard, when are they ever going to get a big win, or will they? I mean, I'm starting to wonder. Even Kevin Cooey's rink that I thought was right there has started awfully slow this year.
That's the age-old question, and a great question, and I'm just as surprised as maybe the masses are, because Kevin's not getting any younger. I'm not getting any younger. I'm 46 and I'm still playing pretty good. But these teams out here that in the top 8, there's such a fine line between the top 2 and then the next 6. But for some reason, these top 2 seem to be able to manufacture some wins when you're not supposed to, or just have that one little bit of one edge over one of these other teams. And I can't really answer it. I don't really know why, whether it's just experience or it's a little bit of luck, or maybe we're just a little bit better. I honestly don't know. To me, it's such a fine line, because you play the Kevin Cooeys, the Randy Furbys, the Wayne Maddaws, Jeff Stoughton, Burtnick, all these guys are the top 8. They can beat you at any given time, and we know that. And every time we play these guys, we go, it's going to come down to the last shot. Hopefully, you got the hammer in your hand, and that's usually what happens. But amazingly enough, for the last 2 or 3 years, Kevin and ourselves have been still rising to the top. And I think I can only answer for us. We are a very consistent team. We generally never have too many bad games. So we'll have a great game, we'll have a good game, we'll have an average game. We'll never have a bad game, which is, to me, if you can kind of hold your own that way, you're going to win the majority of your games, and then you're going to do well in bonspiels. And then hopefully you step it up a notch when you get into the playoffs. And we seem to be able to do that. And maybe that might be the difference with some of these other teams. They're not as consistent. The peaks and valleys are a little bit more predominant with these teams as opposed to us. And I think Kevin's the same. You don't see him having too many valleys. So that's the only difference. I think maybe a little bit more consistent on a regular basis.
That's probably about the best explanation I've heard for it, I think. I think it's a great rivalry, and some people seem frustrated at times that it is just 2 teams, but I think we'll look back one day and just I think we should say this is a great rivalry, and let's enjoy it while it's here. Hey, you're playing in the first Capital One Grand Slam this weekend in Kitchener-Waterloo, not in the same arena, but very close to where you were first in the national spotlight at the 1986 Brier.
Right on.
And you won the last Capital One Grand Slam held in Waterloo. Playing relatively close to home in a city where you've had success. Do you go into this weekend feeling a bit more confident?
It's more of a comfort zone, Dean, because I went to school and I graduated from the University of Waterloo, so I spent four years down there. I'm a lifetime member of the Kitchener-Waterloo Granite Club now. I know all the host committee. I'm going to know 50% of the people on that committee. It's sort of a home away from home for me personally. Brent Lang went to Laurier, so it's a home away from home from him. We know the area well. It's kind of neat. That's sort of a comfort thing. A lot of the family and friends are going to be down. A lot of the people in the crowd I'm going to know. So yeah, that just from that perspective, you definitely have a comfort thing, and not so much confidence as you just have it's silly to sound, silly, like a warm and fuzzy feeling. You just sort of a nice feeling walking in and driving into the city and going into that arena, and we have had success there. You're right, we won the last time there was a slam there. We won that, and we also won a provincials, was played there a year ago, and we won that. So the building has been really good to us. So as silly as it sounds, you get a nice little comfort feeling. Whether we do well there this week, who knows? But it definitely won't be from feeling uncomfortable.
Hey, anyone knows I'm a big supporter of the Capital One Grand Slam Series, but I do have this concern that I sort of wish each of the 4 events would begin to develop bigger individual identities. I talked to Bob Ursel a few weeks ago about tweaking ice conditions at each one, but Corey Naharney of Manitoba and some others have since suggested via email to me that a better idea might be to tweak the rules in each one, like a 6-rock instead of a 4-rock rule. You know, all those different things. No removal of any opponent stones for 4 rocks. Now, I know we got to get past this current Tim Hortons Roar of the Rings process because I know Canadians won't want people qualifying under different formats. But do you think going forward, once we get past, maybe in the year following, something like that's worth considering?
I wouldn't be adverse to that. I think if you think back, this is the whole Grand Slam series since its inception. We've been very proactive when it comes to anything from different rules. We've gone through different time clock things. We've had draw to the button. There's a whole whack of them. I'm not going to pick them all, but we've been very innovative, I think, when it comes to the thinking about the game of curling, and we're changing things, and we're trying to be, like I said, proactive, and I think that's great. All those suggestions are wonderful, and I think, if they're all very valid, a lot of the guys will sit down and say, "Hey, this is something we can do," and we want to maybe break from tradition a little bit, try something new, and keep it fresh, and keep the interest up, and because it is very important to make sure that everybody's enjoying it, and the people are watching, and the sponsors are happy, and this sort of thing. And it with Capital One that's come on, they're such a fantastic company, and I know the organization well, and those guys have put a lot of time and money into it, and they seem to be really behind us. So I think the key is as long as we can keep putting on a good show and a good product. And you're right, we have to be maybe a new way of thinking. Maybe you're right. Go back to the old original Moncton rule and try it at the odd spiel. And I'm not adverse to that at all. I like the idea of change, and maybe play a skins game once or whatever. Sure, right. I think it's great. I know, talking to the Capital One people, Ian Cunningham, CEO, he's had some great ideas too. He wants to make it bigger and better. So when you got this support from your main sponsor, boy, you want to take the ball and run with it. And I'm sure he wouldn't be adverse to any of those suggestions either.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really excited about the Capital One Cup. I think that adds an element. And,
absolutely.
What my big concern is just when you look at the two sports that have a comparable Grand Slam series, tennis and golf. I mean, the French Open in tennis is nothing like Wimbledon, and the Masters is nothing like the British Open. So I think sometimes our curling events sort of meld into 4 great spiels, but not individual identities.
That's a great. Actually, that is a good point. That, to be honest with you, that's the first I've really heard of kind of breaking them up, making them all sort of unique and having their own identity. I wouldn't be averse to that at all. I think especially if it would create interest, and that's the main thing. You want to sell it. You want people to enjoy it. You want the players to have fun. You want the sponsors to be happy, and you want lots of people out watching. And if it takes tweak a little rule here and there, maybe so be it. Maybe that's what we should do, and that's definitely food for thought. And I think it's a great idea, to be honest with you.
Okay, indulge me for just one more moment on another thought, and that's if we had one season where you take the top 8 teams record-wise in the 3 Grand Slams, and the last Grand Slam is a winner-take-all event. In other words, somebody's going to be throwing a shot for $100,000, and if you miss it, you get 0.
Again, I like it.
And everybody who's in it has won money at some point already.
Yeah, and I like it. Would it ever create some interest? That's the thing. Like, there's nothing better than to watch whatever Tiger Woods, Phil Mickelson have to make this 20-foot putt for $1 million. Like, are you kidding me? Or 8-foot putt, a 3-foot putt, doesn't matter. I'm on the edge of my seat going, oh my God, this is for a lot of money, And curling, we're obviously not at that level, but it would be awfully cool if myself or Kevin or Jeff Soden has a shot for $100,000. People would be interested, and I think you would get the masses more involved in the game because of that sort of entity. And I would, again, I think that's a terrific idea. There'd be a lot of argument because, unfortunately, I think a lot of teams would think, geez, I'm not going to be in that position, and I'm not going to have a chance for that. So that could be a bit of an argument, but
right.
Again, where the problem is, what are we doing? Are we trying to just worry about a couple of teams, or are we trying to make the game bigger and better?
Well, and the reason people still love the Brier final and the Trials finals is when you lose, you get a candy dish, right? I mean, that's the difference between winning the Brier and coming second is it's exponential. It's ridiculous. The stuff that goes with winning and not winning, and I've been on both sides of it. I know it is massive. It is just massive, and you're exactly right. It's identical to that, and probably at a lesser scale if it's just 100,000. So. I think it's great, and I think and that's why people enjoy watching the Brier final as well. All right, let's move on to another topic here. Your brother Russ coaching Ralph Stokely of Switzerland this year. Seems to be some feeling in Canada that citizens of the Great White North shouldn't coach foreign teams. It seems to me there are far graver international issues to worry about than who's coaching curling teams. But what's your take on this issue?
It's a good question. I haven't talked to Russ very much about it. I know he was approached by Ralph early summer, before the summer started, to go over and do it. I do think it's great that Canadians, we are still the best in the sport, fortunately, and touch wood. Hopefully we're hanging in there. But I think there's a lot of knowledge in Canada, and if they're going to go over and start teaching, the Europeans and whomever, Asians, whatever, to make them better curlers and to grow our sport, all for it. I think it's fantastic. That being said, I think I have a bit of an issue when you start to coach a contender, and that may be in Russ's case. He's coaching Ralph Stockley, who's probably the best team in Switzerland. There could become a time, and let's just say as near as either the World Championships or the Olympics, if Russ happens to get them to the Olympics and he's coaching, he's now playing either Glenn Howard or Kevin Martin or Jeff Stoughton or whomever from Canada, a little bit of a conflict of interest and a little bit of a funny sensation, I think. I'm not crazy about that part of it, because I don't know whether Ralph Stockley needs to be coached from a Canadian, and a very good one, obviously, and Russ. He knows his stuff. But then again, I don't blame Russ for going over if he's been, I don't know what...
Don't you think the funny sensation would be mainly Russ?
Yes.
It would be mainly his, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think so. It would be mainly his. And I actually, knowing Russ, he would have a bit of an issue with that. I think he would have a bit of a problem dealing with that. And he may not have that problem, but then it's very likely he could have that issue. And I don't know whether he's put some thought into that or whether it's a concern. Knowing him, though, if he were playing Canada, it would bug him a bit, for sure. Because he's a true blue Canadian, and here he is now playing against his fellow man, sort of thing, and that would be tough. But as far as the expertise goes for the general population, I think is great. I think the better they get, the better the game grows. And to me, it's all about growing the game.
Yeah, and I mean, we've seen other sports. I mean, certainly in soccer, you have, guys coach wherever. They're
so.
Yeah, in hockey, we've got, Canadians are coaching in Russia and all over the world. So.
And vice versa. Like, I don't want to start picking on sports, but whatever. We would say
basketball.
Downhill skiing, we get the Austrians coming over to coach us. I'm sure that sort of thing's going on as well. Basketball, sure. Wherever the expertise is, you want to go to the best. And if it involves getting somebody from another country to come in, you do that, right? And again, as long as the sport grows, I think it's great.
Don't forget, Glenn, you can make probably some nice money coaching when you're 55 plus.
There you go. So there's always that opportunity.
Don't knock yourself
I don't want to shut the door. I don't want to shut the door right now.
Right.
And you're right. And I think that the expertise is there, and obviously, especially maybe the Asian countries. Europeans are still pretty darn good, and the Asian countries are getting better. And boy, you can sure notice it over the last couple of years. And that's because of I think the Canadian influence. We're going over and we're showing them how to do it and what to do, and they're getting better, and that's great. It doesn't get any better now when the other countries are getting better. For Canadians, obviously, as from a selfish point of view, we just have to keep improving to stay on top.
Have you ever really had a coach? I mean, Scott Taylor's your coach, right? But
right.
Not in the sense that most teams have coaches.
No, I really haven't. It's just really over the years, again, I'm a little bit more old school, but back in the day, we just sort of had chaperones as kids. My father was an avid curler and a technician of the game. wasn't really a coach, but he knew the intricacies of the game.
He taught you how to throw the rock, right?
He taught me exactly. Told us how to throw the rock and strategy and that sort of thing, but he didn't get into there's never any psychology or nutrition or any, gamesmanship or any of that stuff going on. But, and the closest to a coach is Scott Taylor, you're right. And he's, he's not really a coach by the traditional sense, but he's been fantastic for us, and I've really enjoyed him. But, from a coach, all-round, total coach, take control sort of situation, no, I've never had one.
Hey, finally, lots of listeners want to know how the top players practice. Now, you and your teammates are from the same province, but you all live quite a distance from each other. When I talked to Craig Saville a while back, he said you might have had one team practice in 2 years.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure how beneficial it is for an average curler to hear what Glenn Howard does when he throws rocks. Sort of what do you do when you practice?
Well, it's a great point. If I had my druthers, I'd say all four people get together on their team and curl together and practice together. That, unfortunately, because of geographics, we can't do that. Craig lives 5 hours away from me, so I never get the chance to throw with Craig. Other than maybe if we go to a spiel early and we get some practice ice, we'll do it. On a day-to-day basis, unfortunately, I tend to throw by myself. Back in the day, my brother and I would throw together, and we'd criticize each other till the cows come home, and constructively, of course. But now I actually, as I'm by myself, I find an hour or 45 minutes during the day. I call the iceman up. He goes down and makes the ice for me. I go down and I'll throw 36 to 48 rocks in 45 minutes, and then right back to work. And I try and work on different things. I don't really condone this because I'm sort of thrown to a wall or I'm thrown to the edge of the 8. I'm not thrown to a broom, and I don't have any other feedback. Problem is that's the only thing I have, other than if I try and find practice ice in the evenings, and then it's tough because there's only 2 clubs in the local area. They're very busy. There's not a lot of open ice, so I have to try and do it during the day. Then again, that's really what it comes down to, and I try and throw a couple of times a week minimum. But then when we get into the Bonspiel circuit, if you play 9 games, and then you have 2 days off, and then another 8 games, I really don't even throw in betweens. I don't have time.
But when you do throw 36, 48 rocks, I mean, do you just throw the whole gamut, or do you ever?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay.
Generally, I would say, unless there's something bugging me, unless my wide out turns bothering me, and I'll go throw it a bit. I generally almost like a one-on-one against myself. As silly as that sounds, I'll throw a center guard, then I'll try and make a come around, and then I'll make a hack waiter. And then I try and do a little bit of everything. And now, obviously, there's no sweeping, but I like to throw all the shots. And unfortunately, it takes you an end or two to break the ice down as well. So
right.
I'll throw up and back in at least 40 to 48 rocks. And a lot of it is really making sure the legs are feeling good and you get your foot under your body properly. And because if I go a time when I don't throw for 4 or 5 days, then I find my legs tighten up a bit, and they don't quite get into the position they're used to until 2 or 3 games into the next spiel. And I'm finding, honest to God, the older I get, the harder that is, so the more I have to work at it.
I have to say it's encouraging to hear that happens to you.
Oh, it does. And then I got to keep myself in a little bit better shape than over the years, because when you're younger, you can get away with not doing anything. And when you're older, you can't. And so I'm trying to keep my legs in shape and do as much physical activity as I can, and go to the gym a bit and do as much as I can that way. But as far as practicing, I generally do all the shots. The only time I might change it up if the ice is really tough. Let's say it's really slow. I'll tend to throw a lot of hits.
Okay.
Draws, you're just not going to make that many, and it's going to frustrate me. So I'll throw a bunch of hits. I'll pick a spot, and when I release it, I think I have a real good idea where that should end up. And if it doesn't, then I don't think I'm throwing it quite the way I think I am, and then you go from there. And it's just a matter of getting into your throwing form and feeling comfortable.
All right, Glenn, we finished with a run back, which actually you were the first person to ever do, and I didn't even call it the run back, and you nailed it back then.
Okay.
I don't know if it's ever been as good since, but I give you a topic, and you give me your thoughts in 1 to 3 words.
Okay.
Your Movember effort so far?
Not good.
I guess, will we see it this weekend?
Don't think so.
Oh, you're not going to go for it, are you?
Don't think so.
You're not going to. All right. The team that Brazil will put on the ice against a team from the USA for a spot at this year's World Championships?
Great guys, no chance.
The Ontario provincial playdown format?
Okay.
President-elect Barack Obama?
Fantastic.
The CCA removing most of its stats archive from its website because some believe it may offer insights that could be an advantage for teams from other countries.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, I don't know what I love
Didn't
Bob.
hear about that one. Wow.
Well, read Bob Weeks on curling.blogspot.com. He's got it covered. Apparently, like Bob says, they don't want people to know what Rudy Ramcharan did with his interns in 1997. It's kind of unbelievable.
That is whacked.
What's frustrating about it is, I actually would go to those stats sometimes just to look some things up in case it helped in an interview. Now they're not there.
That is whacked. You put that in everyone. I don't see that at all.
Anyways, they're not there right now. They're going to put some of it back.
Man.
Okay. Watching another team trying to follow a Richard Hart intern with an outturn.
Hilarious.
And finally, watching your son's junior team play.
Outstanding. I've been very proud.
All right, good for you, Glenn. I give everybody a chance to name their sponsors at the end of the show. I think most people know who's behind you guys, but let me know anyways.
JVC, BalancePlus.com, Hartwell Electric, and the Dominion Insurance Company.
All right, Glenn, thanks very much for your time. I appreciate it. Have a good luck this weekend in Waterloo, where I hope we see some big crowds.
Thanks very much. Always a pleasure talking to you, Dean. Thank you.
That's Glenn Howard on The Curling Show. If you can't get to Waterloo to attend the first Capital One Grand Slam of the season, make time to watch it on CBC and Bold. This year, CBC is broadcasting the quarterfinals. That gives them more choices for the feature game on Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Bold is showing the semifinals on Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and CBC has the finals on Sunday at 1 p.m. Of course, you can always get a subscription to the Curling News, where you'll find a guide to all the curling that's on television throughout the season. As always, thanks for listening. Here's Black Pudding.
You know it's hard for me to see things that I cannot find. How can I tell if it's a dream or just all in my mind?